The Galaxy S10 was released all the way back in 2019, and I think it was Samsung at their absolute best. The colors, refinements, design, aesthetic, usability, everything is perfect in the Galaxy S10. But does it still hold up 6 years later? So this is the Galaxy S10, and in my opinion, this is peak Samsung. This is just about the best phone they ever made, and I want to talk about why it is, and if you should still buy it in 2025. The first thing you notice with this phone is obviously the color. The pearl white is just absolutely stunning, and the feel in the hand is fantastic. It has a rounded back and rounded front glass, so holding it in your hand is just so inviting. It's a very human way to interact with it.
I invented this constipation unclogging toilet. The design is very human. We just need to sit on it, then activate the switch. This will completely solve the problem of constipation.
My two biggest complaints about the overall design is that there's a Bixby button. This thing is stupid, and I think the power button is just a little bit too high up based on where my thumb should be. This is also the last phone to include a headphone jack from Samsung. It's amazing that they were able to make this design so thin and still be able to put a headphone jack. I have a Galaxy S24 Ultra here. This is a much thicker phone, and yet there's no room for a headphone jack. Pretty remarkable how that stuff sort of works out. The display is a 6.1-inch dynamic AMOLED 1440p by 3040 pixels. It has a 19:9 aspect ratio at 522 pixels per inch. It supports up to HDR10+. This is the first one to feature the Infinity O display with the punch-out hole cut out for the front camera, and this has the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which is a lot faster than the optical fingerprint sensors we had seen in other phones up to this point. And then the lack of camera bump here is fantastic. There are 3 cameras in the back, one a telephoto, the other one is a wide, and the other one is an ultra wide, with the telephoto and wide both being 12 megapixel and the ultra wide being a 16 megapixel. The photos still hold up. The video I don't really like. I never really liked the way that Samsung phones handled video, especially not compared to like an iPhone, but it still looks more than fine and more than capable all these years later. I mean, all things considered, this is a 6-year-old phone, and the fact that it even has 3 cameras is like mind-boggling to me. Technology's just come so far, it's just awesome. The hardware for the S10 was a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855. It featured 8 gigabytes of RAM, a minimum of 128 gigabytes of storage, up to 4K at 60 frames per second video recording, and a 3400 milliamp hour battery. The combination of just sort of everything with this phone, the design, the feel in the hand, the 3 camera setup, the inclusion of a headphone jack, USB-C, everything, the screen, the whole package, the whole punch, the under display fingerprint reader, everything made this phone just peak Samsung. I mean, I don't know what phone could have been better than this. Maybe the Note 5 a lot of people liked. This is just peak Samsung for me, and I really wish they went back to this same design philosophy. I think this looks a lot sharper than the this is an S24 Ultra. This is basically also what an S25 Ultra looks like as well. This to me is just a boring, playing it safe design. There's nothing about this that really stands out to me. I mean, I think this looks better than the S25, but comparing the two, to me, it's not even a close comparison. This phone came out 6 years ago. This phone came out 1 year ago, and comparing the two, I think this phone looks still significantly better. It feels better in the hands, just better weighting, everything about it. It's just a remarkable device, but can you use it in 2025? They didn't promise the 7 years of security updates until much later. You don't get new Android in this, but that's the thing with these older Android phones is the weird thing is that you don't get the security support that you will with an iPhone. iPhones will get 9 years of security patches and security updates, whereas the S10, there's just no guarantee. Samsung just recently started guaranteeing it. But the weird thing about this is that an Android phone that's 7 years old has a higher likelihood of running an app than an iPhone that's 7 years old or 10 years old or whatever. And so you get this weird mix of you're almost guaranteed to be able to load any app because you can sideload it using on this phone. You're not gonna get that Samsung backed security update that you would if this were like an iPhone or a newer Samsung phone with a guaranteed 7 years of updates or whatever. So should you buy it? I mean, I got this thing for pretty cheap. I got it for 150 bucks. And I think this comes down to if the price is right, go ahead and get it. In using it, it's been more than responsive. It's been more than capable of handling all the things that I need to use a phone for. Just basic word processing, Notion, sending text messages, sending emails, phone calls, pictures, everything like that. It's been more than capable of doing that. And the screen is so remarkable that the interface always feels better because the screen looks so good. This phone, compared to like an SE 2022, it's just going to feel better, even though I like the way those phones feel, it's just going to feel better in the hand and through the user experience, just because the portal in which you're experiencing everything is just nicer. So having this nice screen on here is going to make the feel of the phone better, even if it's a little laggy or doesn't respond quite as quick as something as new as this might, but because the portal in which you're viewing the content and viewing the screen in general and interacting with it, it's going to feel really solid. So I think it's still a solid buy, and I'm looking forward to using this phone for a week because I just want to see how Samsung's best still holds up 5-6 years later in 2025. Thank you for watching. This has been Scott with Techno Eclipse. We'll see you next one. Peace out.